Vocês podem perguntar.
Pergunta para o Michel Laub. Você falou em liberdade, né? Como é possível ser livre hoje? Acho que nunca, né? Mas...
Não, eu estou usando esse termo aproximadamente, assim. Claro que ninguém é livre, todo mundo, inclusive em relação à nacionalidade, religião, origem, cultura, você está condicionado por uma série de fatores, né? Isso é claro. Mas eu acredito que você tem que ter pelo menos a ilusão de que você é livre. Você não pode começar a escrever já preso a uma coisa assim de, por exemplo, é muito comum isso. Escritor novo é muito comum. De dizer que na literatura brasileira não existe nenhum romance que fale sobre sei lá o quê. Aí o cara vai lá e tenta fazer esse romance. Pode ser que dê muito certo, né? A gente nunca sabe, mas a princípio ele já está se vinculando a algo que não é dele. Não é que ele tem a necessidade de escrever um romance sobre aquele assunto. Ele está se filiando a uma questão quase de mercado. Está faltando esse livro, então eu vou chamar a atenção. E a possibilidade dele não ser tão efetivo em algo que ele não tem uma ligação muito profunda, um desejo muito profundo de fazer, eu acho que é menor do que se ele escolher isso de uma maneira livre, entre aspas, né? Usando esse conceito de liberdade um pouco emprestado.
Yes, it's a question. How many? I think it's Mania, a Romanian-American author, who asked the question: how many readers does an author need? And he said his answer was 7. So when you take this answer seriously, I don't know where the lady is who asked the question. I think you have a certain degree of freedom as an author. Yeah. If you want to have 20 readers, it's going to be difficult. If it's 7, yeah.
Eu acho que o Michel falou sobre... Eu sou jornalista também. E falou sobre os primeiros romances estarem mais ligados ao factual, à vida mesmo dele. E que depois, com o tempo, parece que isso consegue sair despregar dessa coisa mais da vida própria, factual, para o imaginário, né? E essa uma dificuldade enorme, como é que é possível, como é que isso acontece, como é o processo disso, sabe? Se despegar do que é concreto, né?
No meu caso, eu nem sei se foi uma passagem de algo relativo à minha vida para algo imaginado, porque sempre teve as duas coisas, sempre andaram juntas. Foi mais, eu falei assim, mais no sentido de sair de uma coisa muito pequena, meio solipsista minha, assim, de meu pequeno universo para um universo maior, em termos até temáticos. E aí a questão do ensaio ou do tom ensaístico entra um pouco aí, porque eu passei a falar de temas muito mais importantes, assim, digamos, o Holocausto aqui, ou no caso do Maçã Envenenada, a questão cultural, da relação do fã com o ídolo, da música pop. São coisas que eu acho que dizem mais do nosso tempo, que dizem mais para um número muito maior de pessoas do que apenas lá minhas pequenas memórias de adolescência. Eu não sei se esses últimos livros são melhores ou piores, mas para mim eu acho que eles são mais ricos que os meus primeiros. Essa é a impressão que eu tenho.
If I can add something, I think the distinction between purely autobiographical novels and fantasy, how we call more fantasized fiction, is not always right. And I would argue that a completely imagined novel can be more telling about the author than a novel that sticks to his autobiographical facts.
Yeah, and even the way that you write is a kind of autobiographical element of the book, because at least in my books I think the way that I write imitates the way that I think. So this is the most autobiographic
I think there's only
element of my books.
one important rule, no self-censorship. I think the self-censorship is the biggest enemy of the novelist. The fear that people won't like him, that people will say, oh, you're telling this about this person, you're telling this about yourself, people think it's all about you. No, I think you have to... I'm looking at you, I'm not sure if you asked the question. Yes, okay, I was afraid I was looking at the wrong person. I think that's the biggest enemy. But there's that's the same if you write a purely autobiographical novel about your mother, father, or a nephew, or something that has, on the surface, nothing to do with your life. It's not that important. It's coming out of you. And it's coming out of you for a reason.
but when you're writing it directly, say like Karlov, Nausgaard, which is using real names and implying other people and revealing things about people that they might not want in a book that was sold to 50 countries. Is there a limit there? Is that self-censorship still applies only to the author, or does he have to extend that to his at least his immediate family?
It's difficult. I think you have a moral responsibility, but when it comes to your family, I never, in my first book I wrote things about my mother. She didn't like it. When the book came out, she sent me a letter that after the publication of this book, her son died. She didn't have a son anymore. And then the book became a bestseller and she changed her mind. So,
Very good reason.
Yes. But of course you have a responsibility sometimes, and I'm much more aware of it now than I was then, to protect certain people in your surroundings. As to Knausgaard, again, I don't want to offend anybody, but I don't have any patience for an author who writes 2 pages about putting beer in a glass.
Well, I think it's a very, very difficult question. For me, particularly, maybe it's the most difficult question of writing. What I can say, being a bit polite also, is that if the book is good, the writer is forgiven for it. Mostly is what happened. But for instance, Nausgaard, I like him very much, I like his books. But I don't know anything about his family, his relationship with his relatives or stuff. And I'm sure that probably he would agree with me that he had to deal with it. So if he wrote that book, he would have all the gains of it, but he will have to face the losses of it.
Why did you like Knausgaard? What's so good? Please enlighten me. Maybe
there's kind of poetry in the boringness,
Maybe. There was this famous essay by Zadie Smith in the New Review of Books, and basically she claimed that it's so nice to read a book about lives that are as boring as your own life. But that's not what I'm looking for in literature.
But I'm really not think that he has a boring life. It depends. I like very much the language, so sometimes and I think he mixed the very banal passages with very, very, very deep passages. So these deep passages, in the end, they compensate all the other stuff. And not only compensate, I think the banal and the easy, the boring stuff is like a preparation for the deep one. It's a kind of, they start to hypnotize you with boring things, and when you see
you convince me. After I will have moved in with your editor, since we don't have sex anyway, I'll start reading Knausgaard.
That's nice. Mais perguntas?
I have a question about Tirza. It seems to me you start with a narrator that's more from the point of view of, I read it a while ago, from the point of view of the father.
Hofmeester, yes.
Hofmeester. And towards the end, it's more from the point of view farther away from him. Do you remember?
In my recollection, that maybe I wrote the book in 2005, and you were probably 3 years ago, so you may know this better. In my recollection, the narrator sticks. He doesn't stick to Hofmeester, but he remains very close to him till the end. But of course, Hofmeester changes, and so maybe you can say that the narrator changes. But what was your question exactly? Maybe I missed.
The question is, he's always closest to Hofmeester than anyone else.
Yes.
But he's farther from Hofmeester towards the end. If I remember, after the murder and everything else, it seemed to me like he was more ascetic.
It's so interesting, yeah. When I was writing this book, I had a different feeling. I thought that the narrator started out with much more distance in the beginning and towards the end. But then again, a reader sometimes really, and I'm not joking, knows things better than the author. So it's possible that you are right. It's not something I did on purpose, not consciously, and it's not what I recollect, what I remember doing.
quem não leu, eles estão conversando sobre o Tirza, que é o livro que a Rádio Londres publicou agora, e que Tirza é o nome da personagem, da filha do personagem principal, mas o livro, como a Vivi falou, fica sempre mais perto do pai do que da Tirza ao longo da narrativa.
I have a question on, we just talked about the translations and the relation you have as an author towards the translated version of your own book. What about movies? Because at least...
Thank you.
I can imagine that the movie is much further away from the book because it's an interpretation, but what is your relation towards the movies which were based on your books?
Very short about it. When you allow somebody to turn your book into a movie, you sell your soul. And since I have to make a living, I have to sell my soul quite often. I like doing it, to be honest. No, but this maybe I will discuss in jest. You just don't have much influence, and you know this. And you should not entertain the illusion that you will have, because so many people are involved. And sometimes things turn out like Tears also said. I liked certain things, I disliked other things. But it's really it's something it's a piece of art, or piece of art. Let's call it a piece of art. That's the director of the movie is responsible for it. It has nothing, but not many things to do with your own book anymore. And that's for one reason I would never want to adapt one of my novels myself, to turn them into a play or into a screenplay. I'm done with it. I would never do it. Let other people do it. But my soul is for sale. Yes, that's the sad truth.
Well, I only sold my soul once, and the movie is not ready yet, so I cannot say about the result. What I can say about the subject in general is that I guess a director making a movie on your book is another reading. It's like you have the reading of the common reader, you have the reading of the critic in the paper, you have the reading of the academic professor who teaches your book in classes, and you have the reading of the translator who changed things and he gives his own version for what you have done, and you have this version and reading of the movie maker. So it's a recreation of your work. You cannot compare it with your own work because they are different stuff. They are different products. And so I think I'm a bit more relaxed about it. What can I do? I mean, it's an industrial process of to make a movie is an industrial process, so it involves a lot of people, as I told. And it's impossible for me to control everything. So the best thing that I can do is to forget about it. Just leave the people who work with this, they are specializing on it, and to let them do what they can do best. And probably they would do it better than me because I have a personal relationship with that text, and I will have a lot of difficulties to cut things and to change things.
We've had the translator and the movie director, but I was wondering, how is the relationship between the author and the editor? And how does that one work?
Well.
Mine is very good.
No, I loved all my editors, and it's really a pleasure working with them. And even when you disagree with the proposal an editor is going to make or made, often they point out something that could be better. So it's a close relationship. It's based on trust, and like Michel, I was happy to work with very good editors, I believe. And this is going to be a whole new experience. Yes.
But don't tell them that they can, reject you. They don't know yet in Brazil that they can disagree with you. Don't tell them. In Brazil, they don't know.
They don't know it.
Yeah, they
Seriously?
disagree. No, they don't. They always.
Michel, you can't say no.
But this is really speaking seriously. It's really different to be like me, a medium. You know, I don't sell lots of books, so the editor doesn't depend on me on this stuff. So it's a much more relaxed relationship. I guess if you are responsible for you know, the jobs of everybody in the published house, because your book sells a lot of thousands and thousands of copies, and the published house depend on you. Probably the pressure is much more, you know, strong. And so for me, it has been always a very good relationship, because we talk about the book and everything, but they never impose me anything, so I have the last word in some way. So we can discuss, and to discuss with good readers, which the editors are, usually they are, and my editor is a very good reader. It's a very good thing. Before your book is in the shops, you can still change things and rethink about things. I think it's a rich process.
Arnon, you had at least a good experience with pseudonym. I wanted to ask you what drove you to write under pen name, and if you still are doing new books under pen names.
I would not tell you, to answer the last part of your question. I did three and a half books on a pseudonym. I started doing it in 1999, I stopped doing it in 2004, 2005. There were many reasons for doing it. I wanted to know how people would react to a book, especially in the Netherlands, not written without knowing that I was the author. I wanted to do a book without doing a book tour. I wanted to work with an editor at a different publishing house without leaving my other publisher. And then I really enjoyed the liberty, speaking about liberty or freedom it gave me. And I came up with this other persona, a philosopher who lived in Vienna, Austria, with an Austrian mother, Dutch father. And it was, I would say it was a very liberating and happy experience. And one of the many reasons I still like Vienna so much. So I can recommend it to anybody. And even if you're not an author, you can live a double life under a different name. So you don't have to be an author to do this. I'm not sure if you're an author, but I can recommend a double life. And if you need alibis, you can contact me, because since I will move in with the editor, I have some time and we can talk about the...
He's an editor too.
He's an editor?
Yes.
Oh, but now I'm not sure which one I think I'm going to move in with you. This competition is a free market, okay?
I have one question for Arnon. Not about book related, but about your newspaper, your footnote every day. Me as a reader, I always wonder, is it just a different view on the news, or a peek into your soul?
What?
A different view on the news, or a peek into your soul?
I have to explain maybe for some people. I do a daily column for Dutch newspaper, footnote that's on the front page of the newspaper. I'll be doing it till Obama steps down, so till January 2017, and I started doing it in March 2010. It's both. The newspaper, basically they don't ask me to do anything, but I think it's my responsibility to comment on the news, and sometimes I think I myself the news, so I can write something very personal as well. So of course it's the two things at the same time, and the way I comment or I write about certain political things or certain about wars or whatever, what's going on in the world, is of course has to do with my soul. The word soul is always difficult, but it's connected to my soul as well, yes. So if you think you know my soul after reading all the footnotes, I can only say you're right.
So I'd like to thank both Arnon and Michel and the public. Tem coisa, continua?
Ah, não, vai ter um coquetel,
diz assim,
So, I'd like to invite all of you. There'll be a cocktail and book signings outside. And thanks again for coming. Thanks again, sorry for everything.
I have to apologize. Can I give you a hug?